when I took this picture, it was the first road to rebellion, and this was my first time meeting you, a first time meeting a lot of up-and-coming fighters. Sometimes I couldn't tell if people were excited or nervous, but you just seemed happy and just excited to be there, walking out. And obviously we knew what happened in this fight. You made a big statement by winning your first interstate fight via knockout. What was your thoughts walking out here and also taking your first interstate fight like this?
Well, with this fight, I actually didn't know about it until a week before. So I was fighting the week before. So Andy didn't tell me anything about the fight because he wanted me to focus on the fight before. And the fight before was my comeback fight after I had an ankle injury and I was out for 7 months. And as I got out of the ring from that previous fight, Jimmy White was the commentator and he went, "Oh, really good fight." And as I got out the ring, Andy said to him, "Oh yeah, she's up again next week in Melbourne." And I was like, what? I'm going to Melbourne, my first interstate.
Yeah.
I was really excited to be there, but I was really nervous because in my mind, I thought, all right, I'm going to interstate. No one knows who I am. Everyone's going to be cheering for my opponent because I'm on my foreign ground. But walking out there, Andy had written some words on my wraps. So before the fight, my nerves were taking over and Andy was busy wrapping my hands and I just said, pause 1 second just before he was done. And I bent over and I picked up a Sharpie and I gave it to Andy and I said, "Can you just write something?" And I presented him with my wrists. I didn't tell him what to write. I didn't explain it. All he did was he wrote family on one side and dedication on the other side.
Which was the hand that knocked out your opponent?
Ooh, good question.
I'm very curious.
I have to actually find that photo. It would have been on my Instagram. I'm going to find it. Yes, that would be very interesting to know. So that was the first time I just wanted to take something into the ring with me that Andy had written, based on the fact that you have that connection with your trainer. It's a different connection and no one can really explain it. I was really nervous to fight interstate. That afternoon, walking through the streets of Melbourne, I was with Andy and Don Millar.
Yeah. And
walking through the streets, Donnie just yelled out and said, "Oh, I'll give you $500 if you win by knockout tonight." And I just giggled because it's not as common to hear that girls win by knockout.
Was that your first time to Melbourne and your first time meeting Don Millar?
Yes. So definitely lots of firsts on that trip.
Yeah.
And then second round knockout. I was like, holy goodness, I did it. At that point, I didn't think about the fact that Donnie had offered $500 as a knockout.
You would have been running up somewhere.
I was just like jumping into Andy's arms. I was like, oh my goodness. It was an incredible feeling. And I feel like that win kind of solidified YOLO in Melbourne. Because then when I returned to Melbourne, people kind of knew who I was because they would remember that moment. And of course on Rebellion, like it's an amazing fight show to be on. So yeah, definitely a memory I won't forget. And walking out just so excited, and I can see that excitement in my face on that photo. So definitely a great memory. And I'm very much I have a lot of attachment to photos. So when I look at a photo, 1,000 memories and feelings run through my body.
It's funny the way you describe your victory. You still seem to have that same reaction in all your fights, walking out the same calm way and just being excited at every fight as if it was your first, but still maintaining complete control of your emotions and what's going on. So it's really nice to see.
I think the fact that I still walk out with that same smile and that same beaming attitude kind of demonstrates that I'm still in it for the right reasons.
Yes. And it's funny because a few shows later, I have a picture of Singh walking out at that same venue, similar walkway, the same goofy smile too. It just shows that level of, how calm you guys are, a testament to Andy's training.
I'm just going to add on. that's Andy. Andy has the way of calming you completely just before a fight. He's got that tone in his voice. He knows exactly what to say, and that's individualized for each fighter as well. So what he would say to me and what he'd say to another fighter from a gym, two different things, but he has a way.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. This particular fight, it was only you and Singh. Your head trainer wasn't here. What do you normally think about in the corners? How do you remain so calm?
So I guess Andy has trained us to, in the corner, breathe, relax, and listen, because it's a skill to actually listen to your corner. Sometimes you can listen, but you're not actually hearing. So in the corner, I'm just thinking, okay, well, what are they saying to me? How am I processing it? And how am I going to take it into the next round? This was my second trip to Rebellion. So this time Singh was in my corner, and I remember this was my first fight that I didn't have nerves. And let me just put it out there, it's my only fight I didn't have nerves. So before the fight, I called Andy and I said, what's wrong? Why am I not nervous? Something's wrong. And he just said,
on fight day, you mean?
Yeah, literally, my hands were wrapped and I was ready to go. And I was super chilled and there was no anxious vibes happening and I was confused. And I think this was my 10th fight. And I rang him and I said, I don't understand. And he said, oh, you're probably just getting to that point where you're knowing how to work with your emotions, and it's a good thing. Don't stress about it. And I was like, oh, okay. That's just the way it is. And unfortunately, that was the only fight that ever happened, but at least it happened once.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that chat again, even if I haven't had my head trainer there, I've always had a call with him, regardless if it's been interstate or international. Andy's always been available to have that little quick 1-minute chat to get my mind in the right spot. And then going into this, I mean, Singh was still quite new at our gym, but again, being around him in the gym, I know the way he speaks and what he means when he says certain things. So I feel in this moment, I was so happy, one, to be in the ring, hence the massive smile. Just like, oh yes, let's.
Could it be because you met
go
a name
again.
Could it be because you met a name on yourself at the first road to Rebellion? So when you came back, you were just overwhelmed with excitement that you forgot about your nerves.
It could well be that, I wasn't as nervous because of the fact that people this time were cheering for me too. And when I walked out at the fight venue, it was a different fight venue to the last one. And when my name was announced, there was actually people cheering in the crowd. And I was like, hey, it's all right. I'm not alone here in Melbourne.
I just happened to be at the right space at the right time. I was able to see both fighters' reaction. I could see the pain in Nat's face and see your, I don't know if it was confused look, thinking, is she okay? Thinking to win this fight. What was going on at this moment?
I stood there looking at Singh and Don in the corner going, she's not getting up. I've won my second fight in Melbourne also by some form of a knockdown on Rebellion. And I was like, but she's not getting up, but she's not moving. Is she okay? And I'm like, it was a confuzzle in my head of going like, yes, I won, but she's not moving. So I guess my compassion as a teacher came through there as well by going, oh my goodness, what now? And I remember when they called the fight, I actually went and sat down next to her, but I didn't want to move. Like I just wanted to sit there and see if she was okay. And eventually Donnie was going, come on, you can't sit here anymore. It's a strange feeling because people who see knockout photos, some people will respond with, how can you be so happy when you've just hurt someone? Yeah. And I can completely understand when they say that because I've just hurt someone, but I have done that via a well executed technique. So in my mind, I'm like, yes, you had your timing right. You had the selection of the shot right. Everything just worked well. And what you've been training landed. But then you have that worry of their well-being. Yeah. And I had a good chat to Nat after it. I went and spoke to her to see if she was okay. And, it's kind of nice that in our sport, we don't have that bad vibe between fighters. So you're actually able to have that conversation. And I remember Nat telling me that that was her first cut. And I thought, is it I made my first
I
cut?
feel honored.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I think that might have actually even been the first cut that I had given to someone. I have to actually double check my results, but I
Could
think that might have
be.
been. But I do know that this was my 10th fight or 11th fight, but I was undefeated at this point. So it was also really great. And even that in its own is a little bit of a nerve-wracking point, because each fight you go out going, well, is this going to be the one that I lose? Not that losing fights can actually make a big...
Is that the pressure you have for yourself if you have like a long undefeated streak? You keep thinking, is this the one? Is this the one? Whereas if you've won some, lost some, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I find like the later in my career it got, the less I worried about whether or not I was going to win the fight. Whereas in the earlier stages in my career, it was just all about like my fight record and what it would look like and having those losses. But as I developed as a fighter, I realized that your fight record means nothing unless you have faced credible athletes.
I
So
completely agree, especially in Muay Thai too. It's who you fought, how it went, and that's what matters.
Yeah, 100%. So I can tell you about fights that I've lost that I am really proud of, based on the fact that I had the opportunity to share the ring with an amazing athlete. So it then became less about whether or not I win. Obviously, we want to win, but the emphasis became less on that and more on being able to apply the techniques and the game plans I've been working on within my fight camp in the ring when I'm under pressure.
Yep. Going back to what you said, how you went to see Nat afterwards, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure your opponent's okay and no one's seriously injured. Over the years, I've developed friendships with many fighters in the sports. And it's always hard seeing someone being hurt or knocked out in a certain way. But part of my job is I tell people, it's to accurately document fight sports without being too biased. I've got to capture it how it is. And I never like to just take a picture of someone being knocked out. There's always context. And same with anyone winning, there's always context in what's going on. I think of it in a way where, why would I want a picture of myself being flat on the canvas if it's not telling a bigger picture? So it's always capturing in context. It's out of respect too. Like, I'm not just going to come up to someone who's been knocked out and ask for a photo. I respect the space around them. I know what's going on. I know what's happening. I know the protocols. I know the referee needs to get to them first, and then doctors, and then you do all the formalities.
Ultimately, photos like this tell a story. And I feel like you tell many stories with your photos. It's not just an image. It's got shading to it. So it definitely has, what's the word I'm looking for? It has substance. It's not just it's not just a photo. You can have a look at, I always notice little things in it where you're highlighting certain things, but you've got other things, and there's lots of emotions in a photo. I'm very big with photos though. My whole bedroom has got photos all over, and it's just,
hopefully it's mine.
There's definitely lots of yours. But I just feel like it tells so many stories and so many memories from one. Like, I remember that specific moment where I was watching Elias and he was counting, and she wasn't moving, and then she started struggling to try and get up, and in my mind I was like, okay, she's going to get up. Okay, no, she's not. Okay, she's going to get up. Okay, no, she's not. But if you look at this image, you can see all of that. You can see in my face, like, I'm going, okay, I'm using this moment to breathe. I could be celebrating right now, but I don't know if I should, because have I won it? Have I done enough? And then that second part of, is my opponent okay?
I'm glad you can see that too.
Yeah, it's great. Like, it's amazing how you can capture these emotions in one image.
Oh, thank you. Yolo's famous flying knee.
Flying
Whenever
knee.
I see you throwing flying stuff around, I felt to myself, okay, this is when she knows she has control of the fight. This is when she's picking it up now. And it's normally the third or fourth round. When flying stuff starts happening, I know it's going to be exciting.
I think it's normally at that stage where I've like felt out my opponent and I can figure out my distancing, her timing, things like that. I mean, it depends from fighter to fighter as well. And some fights, it's not as easy to land a flying knee. But I think 80% of the fights I've had, I've thrown a flying knee. Flying knees and body shots are the things I seem to throw often. I was actually going through some of my fight photos to see if I could find a shot of that in all my fights. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten that, but I do have a few of them. Flying knee, this fight was for the WMC title.
Yes.
And
I was very excited because this was my second or third time coming to Sydney for fight shows, and I kept wanting to see you fight because every time I was seeing you fight, it was fighting in a state that wasn't your home turf, and this was your crowd, your people. I was just very excited to see you fighting at home for the first time.
I know it's very strange because there's not many moments I've actually fought on home turf to have my home crowd cheering me on. And Pia's from Phoenix, so Phoenix always brings a really big crowd as well. So even though I was home turf in this fight, there was still a 50-50 with support in the crowd. So, and I think this is definitely one of the fights of the night on this card because it was action-packed from word go. At the end of this fight, I stood there going, did I win it? Did she win it? Did I win it? Did she win it? And I remember looking up and Sai was up at the top because he was commentating. And I just looked to him for like, tell me, did I win it? Did she win it? And he just kind of went like this, to kind of go like, oh, I think you got it. And I was like, okay, hurry up and announce it. So fighting on home turf is a little bit more pressure because I feel like in this case, I actually had some people come out and watch me fight, which is something I've never done. In my first few fights, I never invited anyone to come because you kind of feel if I don't win, I'm letting them down.
Yes.
So this time I actually invited people and my sister was in the crowd for this one as well. She lives in New Zealand and she came over for the weekend.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so she actually came for my birthday and she was there and she's very much, I would say, very different to me, that she doesn't quite understand why I get into the ring to get punched in the face, even though I tell her my aim is not to get punched in the face. It was really, really great to have a family member. She's the first family member that's ever seen me fight.
Oh,
and
wow. You should have
really
called it to the ring.
Yeah, so straight after the fight, like dressed exactly like that, I went straight out to her. She was sitting up in the top, and just to see is she okay, because I wasn't sure, like, how on earth is this person going to feel who's really stressed about her sister being in the ring and not really understanding Muay Thai at all or any kind of combat sport. So not only did I have my sister there, I had a really great friend who came out as well. So I felt the pressure for this, and then on top of it being a title belt fight, there was a lot of things playing. And then we also had one of Andy's really close friends who had passed before this fight. So I feel like the reasoning for really putting everything into this fight, there was a lot of them.
Would you say it's one of the more nervous that you felt during your fights, this particular one, because it was home crowd and all that's going on?
Yeah, like there were so many different factors impacting how nervous I was. It was intense. So definitely, you don't just have a home ground that is causing anxiety in you. It's like all these extra bits. So definitely. And home ground, I think I can count on one hand how many times I fought on home turf. So the moment you say home turf, it's very nerve-wracking.
Because whenever I'm at this particular venue, you're always at the fronts doing ticket sales, and sometimes you might get a glimpse of the fights, but most of the times you're out there serving the people. So it was very nice to see you working in the center ring this time.
Yeah, center ring instead of being on the front, managing people coming in and out.
But still, you still maintain that nice composure. You're very cheery. You're really happy to see people.
Definitely. That's my bubbly personality that comes through.
Talking about composure and how well you keep your composure during fights in and out of the ring, not many people can keep good composure if it's a controversial decision. I felt this was a bit controversial. How were you able to remain so calm?
This exact photo was me double checking the color of my corner. I stood there and I remember this moment, and they announced the color first and then the name of the fighter. And I was waiting for my hand to be raised because I really felt like I did enough to win it. It was an excellent fight, like all credit to Daria. But when they called the corner, I literally was like, wait, that's not the color of my corner. Hold on. Is it? No. And I was like, oh, okay. I can't lose my sportsmanship because I pride myself on having good sportsmanship. And I just stood in that moment going, all right, that's okay. They saw something different. And it took me just a couple of seconds to just process that and go, it was a great fight. She was an excellent athlete, and all credit to her. Inside though, I was crumbling completely because I felt like I had trained so hard and that I really felt like I won it. And to feel like you're doing one thing but then something else comes out is a really strange feeling. So then I started second guessing myself, but I just sort of have to fake it till you make it, because if you're going to portray yourself in one way for the rest of eternity, everyone in that room is going to remember that moment. I will forget that moment, but they will remember that moment. So I just maintained composure, thinking of future fights as opposed to that current fight. And then when I was backstage and no one was around, then I had my cry and tried to overanalyze what had just happened. And again, after this fight, I had a chat with Daria, and we had a chat about the good things that either of us had done. And I apologized to her mid-fight. In this fight, I pushed her head through the ropes at one point.
I don't remember that part.
when I pushed her head through the ropes, because we were in the clinch and I pushed her head through the ropes, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So after the fight, I remember her saying to me, I don't think I've ever had anyone apologize to me mid-fight. And I was like, oh, that's me.
That's Yolanda.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I just kind of felt bad for shoving her head through the ropes, even though, it's part of Muay Thai and what I was attempting to do at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall, I feel that sportsmanship is a really, really big thing in any sport, and it can easily be lost. And having good sportsmanship, it could take one moment of me either rolling my eyes or not high-fiving my opponent or anything like that to change the opinion of 90% of the fans that were watching that fight.
It's a good point you made too. I didn't think about what you said, how you're having so many fights. This moment can easily pass you by, but everyone who's watching you will remember that tantrum you threw after that result.
100%. So I might forget about it within a couple of fights or a couple of weeks, or who knows how long it might haunt me. But there's someone who's going to remember it and take it with. And what about the younger athletes that might be watching?
Yeah.
You need to be that model. So those are the things that were going through my mind by going, just maintain composure. Don't ruin your gym's reputation. Don't ruin your reputation.
That's the main thing too. If you're a trainer at the gym, you have a close relations to the gym, the last thing you want to do is create some kind of weird image for the gym that you train at too, not just for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not the only person in the factory. There's lots of little domino effects. So every action has a reaction. So even though you can see on my face there, I was like looking at my corner going, are you sure? Okay, all right, all good.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of these kind of mixed result photos I've taken of the post-winning shots, if you look at corners and the crowd, there's always quizzical faces too. Everyone's a bit confused at what's happened.
And you know what? When I went to the corner to thank them for the fight, Daria's trainer said that they thought I had won it. So for something like that to come through was also great. And Kaylee Reese actually messaged me after this fight, and she had watched it. and for her to also put in writing that she believed I'd won that fight as well was a really great little, all right, I'm not the only one that saw the fight differently to what the judges did. So I guess that helped me to get over the fact that it was such a controversial
It happens to
decision.
everyone.
Yeah. And, you know, we can't have a fight record where we have all the right decisions all the time.
Yeah. Well said. I don't know if you've seen this picture before.
No.
It's I've been doing a lot of work.
I start crying.
I've been doing a lot of work for the gym social stuff, and whenever I'm looking for pictures to use, this one always comes up, but I'm always skipping past it, thinking, I don't think she wants to see it. But I know you've had a few injuries leading up to this, and you weren't training like you should. How was it coming to the gym, teaching, while not be able to do what you normally love to do?
Whew. Well, this is an amazing photo. It captures raw emotion for sure. Wow, it's such a great photo. I was back teaching at the gym a couple of days after my surgery. I had the surgery on the Wednesday, and I was back teaching on 2 days later on crutches, and it was really hard.
You actually had a cast on your hand as well in that photo.
Yep, so that was from my thumb reconstruction. For me, there was moments where I couldn't actually, there I'm staring at everyone, and I can tell you now what I was thinking. I was definitely wishing I was training, but I was also appreciating the fact that we have so many people doing what they love, but I just wanted to be part of that so badly. I was still there and still being a positive role model to others, and I was still able to be there. And thank goodness I still had the ability to teach, and Muay Thai wasn't completely eliminated from my life. Otherwise, it would have been a lot harder. But many moments I would sit on the side of the ring and I'd be able to actually watch and appreciate and enjoy being in that environment. But there were also other moments where I actually couldn't watch, because watching and knowing that I wasn't able to do that, there were some negative thoughts that would start going through my mind, like, am I going to get back to that? Am I ever going to be able to kick like that? All those, depending on where my mind was at that stage, would depend on whether or not I could watch training. So this was definitely a moment where I was valuing and appreciating those that are training, but really dreaming of me being able to punch and kick those pads again. Wow, what an amazing photo.
I suspect that you had those moments too. You know, knowing how passionate you are with the sport, and me seeing everyone training so hard that morning, and just seeing you not being able to be part of it too. And it's funny how the last time I was at the gym doing the shoot, you also had another injury, but you still managed to work around that. I think you just had one hand gloved up and you're still doing the drills. And it just showed me that, you know, people can make excuses about why they can't train. I say to all my gym mates, you know, if you want to do something so badly, you will find a way, whether it's just being there, finding other alternatives.
There's always a way to do something. My surgeries have taught me to be able to teach differently as well. So that's been a positive thing. And while there's lots of limitations, it's not always a complete, well, this is not working, so I can't do anything at all. There's a hashtag I kind of lived by the last year, is find a way. And it's definitely taught me a lot, and tenacity and determination has been a big part of my recovery over the last couple of months. And I feel that a lot of people could learn from moments like this, and I do know that everyone will deal with adversity in a different way. You and I might face the same challenge, but deal with it differently based on the 7 other things that we have going on in our life. But where there's a will, there's a way. You know, if you really want to do something, you will go over and beyond to find a way to actually make something happen.
And lastly, the famous white khru. Everyone's kept saying you've got one of the most beautiful white khrus in all of Australia.
I pride myself on my white khru. Singh and I have developed it over the years, and we have changed it as we've gone. So if I have to look at my white khru 5 years ago and look at my white khru now, there's some bases that are still the same. But I think it's got a YOLO spin on it, and I feel like it is something that's so beautiful, but not everyone understands what a white khru is all about. So those that do understand will appreciate the white khru. At the 2016 World Championships, out of 2,000 athletes, I won most beautiful white khru. So I find that it definitely is something that I hold really close and I perform with utmost respect. So, and I find there's a lot of beautiful white khru photos, and to your average person who doesn't really place white khru as a priority, they wouldn't appreciate the photos. So I look at this photo and I go, wow. But also I know that during the white khru for me, that's the moment where all of my nerves get flushed out. So when I get into the ring, I'm still so nervous and so anxious. But the moment I'm finished with my white khru, all of those are gone and my mind is clear and ready to do my job.
I find that when I see fighters doing a white khru, it just shows how relaxed someone is leading up to battle. And like you said, there's so many white khrus out there. Sometimes it's like a routine and I'm just getting a few shots here and there, but there are some standout fighters who do their own touch, and I'm waiting for those moments to happen. And like if I was to do a silhouette of this one, most people would know it's you, or don't know it's your style.
I definitely think so too. You know, if you had to do that and go, well, let's play guess the white khru.
Yeah,
I guarantee that people would be able to guess it for sure.
it's like John Wayne Carr's gunslinging white khru.
Yeah,
this is yours.
I don't have a standout walkout song or anything like that, but I definitely have a standout white khru.
What is your walkout song? I don't remember.
I don't have one. No. Every single fight, I've never selected a song, and I guess it's because PTJ's never really emphasized a walkout song. We've emphasized what I do in the ring, and that's how you're going to remember me, not remembering me via the song I walk out to.
That's a very good point.
2 fights. Yeah. There's only been 2 fights where I've selected the song myself. About 50% of the time, I've just went to Andy and said, all right, what's your favorite song at the moment? Let's go and give that to the DJ. And then the other 50% of the time, or 48% of the time, I've actually said to the DJ, any song that will get the crowd going, pick it. And then there's only been 2 fights that I've selected my own song. One of them was on khru against Iman Barlow. And they messed that one up a little bit, but because they were supposed to start the song a lot further into the song, but that's all right. And then the other fight that I selected my own song was on Destiny against Amajunaku. So there's only 2 times I've selected my own song out of 46 fights.
Wow.
Yeah. There are a lot of people say, well, shouldn't you have a fight song to kind of distinguish who you are? And maybe in my case, my white khru distinguishes who I am, and my smile.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even if you were to have a walkout song, I wouldn't know, because for me, it's your white khru, and then just the style that you bring into the ring.
That's great to hear. Something different.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Yolanda. This is the last of the series. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm really excited. I think this is a really great series to following up on. I look forward to listening to other people's.